Hello everyone, welcome back to YK Reviews. As we slowly close off the Halloween franchise with the last two movies, we get into reviewing Halloween Kills, the sequel to Halloween 2018. So let's get into it. So the Halloween Kills is a sequel to Halloween 2018. It basically follows the events of Halloween 2018, all taking place in the exact same night. So similar to like Halloween 1, Halloween 2, the original ones, this is kind of like a continuation of Halloween 2018. And so then you start off with like the opening sequences. You have the flashbacks of the original night in 1978, Halloween, Michael escaping. You get introduced to two officers, Officer Hawkins and his partner, looking around for Michael in the neighborhood, and the aesthetics, the way it looks, they did a fantastic job with recreating the time of 1978. Everything looked so fantastic. Michael Myers in itself and like the scenery in itself looked amazing. So you have to give a huge shout out to the artists who created that like scenery there. So that just made it look really fantastic. So then you get to see how like the events took place. Officer Hawkins and his partner go to Michael Myers' house and they're looking for Michael. They see like a dead dog. It's a little shout out to like Dr. Loomis from the original movie when they mentioned the dog.
Still warm. He got hungry.
And before we like move further, you have to give a mention to these characters that they introduced, the Milanis, these three bullyish characters who bullied Lani, the kid from the original Halloween movie. So they are being brought up, and after reviewing this, after seeing Halloween Ends and like what happens in Halloween Ends, actually, you know what, I'll mention that in Halloween Ends review, but they do bring up the Milanis, those characters, they get introduced there, but I'll discuss them and the future of them in the Halloween Ends review there, but you see them in the scene. So then you show like Officer Hawkins and his partner in Michael Myers' house, and then that's when Michael Myers appears, grabs officer, and Officer Hawkins shoots his partner instead of shooting Michael by accident. But then that's where the police come and surround the house, and you see Dr. Loomis, and Loomis, you see his face, Donald Pleasance's face. I thought it really looked fantastic there. You see Dr. Loomis appearing, Officer Hawkins basically stopping Dr. Loomis from shooting Michael and killing him, and you just sort of see how like Michael ends up in the institution like from 2018. So you get the opening sequences, you get that flashback sequences of what events took place, because in Halloween 2018 Officer Hawkins does bring up that fact, so you actually get to see it there. And the whole sequence, cinematography, visual effects, the aesthetics, as I mentioned, just looked absolutely incredible for 1978. So then now we cut to the present day. We get to see like what Officer Hawkins is up to. Like he's basically laying on the floor after getting stabbed by the doctor in the previous movie, and then you see Allison's ex-boyfriend Cameron like attending to him, calling an ambulance. And what I found really odd was Officer Hawkins like explaining to Cameron like what happened, explaining to the audience, having those flashbacks, even though the movie came out a couple of years in present day, but like it took place in the events of the same night. It was very odd to show those flashbacks, but that's a tiny nitpick there. So Officer Hawkins goes to the hospital after Cameron calls the ambulance, and then that's where we see basically the next scene of like the bar, where we see Tommy Doyle, we see Nurse Miriam, we see Lindsay Wallace, we see Lani there. So you sort of like have them show you pictures of them as like the younger version in the original movie, and then them in present day. So you sort of like get all these like recurring characters there, and you see them in the bar celebrating the 40th anniversary of Michael Myers and the events of Halloween 1978. And that's where you sort of like see the news flash. You see all these victims from 1978. And so then we get to like, I'm pretty sure what everybody's been waiting for, how Michael Myers escapes, because then you see the fire, like you see as like Laurie, Allison and Karen like on the pickup truck driving away. You see fire ambulances and firefighters and fire trucks all going to the scene of the fire, and that's where you see like Laurie's reaction, wanting Michael to just burn, wishing that they would just like stop. So then you get to like that sequences, you get to that epic scene of like Michael Myers escaping, these fighters going into like the basement, Michael killing them, and just the brutality. this is what I really enjoyed about this movie, is the kills. Like, this was Michael at his peak, just going at complete destruction mode, complete god mode on every single person. And I love the sequence of how he was killing all these firefighters one by one using different weapons, the chainsaw, the crowbar, just like every little detail, and the kills just looked so fantastic. So that was a brilliant sequence of Michael killing these people and escaping. So then he begins his killing spree. He goes to like Laurie's neighbors, and this, like, in itself was a fantastic sequence too. So you see these two elderly couple playing with like this drone, trying to figure out how to use it. Michael comes in, and just the way he kills the husband, like just grabbing a knife after knife after knife, just stabbing that poor guy like multiple different times with multiple different knives, using that like light tube, smashing it and like putting it inside this woman's throat. Just absolute brutality and disgustingness with Michael Myers. So I really loved, like, these are one of my favorite kills in this whole franchise, is the way he kills certain people in this movie. So you come back to the bar where you basically see breaking news: Michael Myers has escaped and he's off on a rampage. And what I really despised about this movie was there was a certain scene in like the hospital, which we will get to, this mob mentality basically now. Like, I understand wanting to bring present stuff into like the movie in itself, but I hated how it's so like modernized, if that makes sense. Like, everybody's seeing this on their phone, everybody's bringing out their phone, looking at this, all now having this mob mentality. Tommy Doyle basically wanting to gather everybody to try and like go look for Michael Myers. And it's just, when we get to like that particular scene, like I'll discuss more about that, but they basically all gather up in a mob, try to look for Michael Myers. So you've got like Nurse Miriam, Lindsay Wallace, these two couples that they introduce, like the nurse and a doctor, as like their Halloween costume. They go to like a park looking for like Michael Myers. You see these three bratty kids. I mean, like, they're bratty kids on Halloween. Like, I don't despise them, I don't hate them, but you see them like talking back, and Michael Myers then arrives. And one of my favorite kills in this movie, so like you get a shout out to like Nurse Miriam, like how Michael Myers jumps on the car and like kills Nurse Miriam, basically a shout out to like how he got the first car in the first Halloween movie. He kills Nurse Miriam, he kills the doctor, the guy in the car, and the one that killed me the most was when the nurse character, because she was like giving crap to her husband about how to use the gun, so she goes and like completely misses the shots that she takes, and then when she goes and like tries to shoot Michael Myers, him just kicking the door, and she ends up shooting herself in the face. That for me is like one of my favorite kills in this whole franchise. Like, Michael Myers was so clever with how he did that. And so then he goes and looks for like Lindsay Wallace. She's like, so you have like this intense scene of like Michael looking for her, and then that's where you've got Tommy, Allison, her ex-boyfriend Cameron, and his dad Lonnie arriving at the park. You sort of like show what happens, because like basically with Jamie Lee Curtis's Laurie Strode character, sort of like an afterthought in this movie. She's in the hospital. They show these sequences of her with like Officer Hawkins, hinting that they had like sort of a relationship growing up. And then you see Karen finds out that Michael Myers is still alive, but holds back on that information to Laurie. You see Allison and Karen like grieving their Ray's death, that kind of small sequences. Allison wanting to like exact revenge, joining the mob, joining Tommy Doyle, so that's how she ends up with them. But like those little sequences are sort of like in the back burn afterthought, because they're so heavily focusing on this mob mentality interaction. And so like once they rescue Lindsay, they take her to the hospital. And before we get to that sequences, Michael Myers, I love, like they have these two characters, Big John and Little John, like they put them in throughout the movie there. I really like those two characters. They were fun, they were entertaining. Those three little like bratty characters in the park try to like trick them, and you just have these like cute interactions with one another. But then Michael Myers, because I've mentioned the realism, they end up living in Michael Myers' house, which I think is realistic. Like, somebody's gonna buy a murder house no matter what. They end up living in Michael Myers' house. Michael Myers does go back home and it ends up just killing them. So I like their characters. I thought they brought a fun like element to the movie. But then you get to the, I would say, the most controversial sequences in the movie in itself. So you've got Tommy Doyle puts Lindsay into the hospital. He starts rallying this mob, this whole, everybody saying evil dies tonight, wanting to find Michael Myers, this patient that also escaped with Michael at the time. He gets mistaken for Michael Myers, and so you just have this whole element of everybody like chasing him, trying to think that he's Michael Myers, even though he's a completely different height, completely different look, yelling evil dies tonight, chasing him and all that stuff. And what happens is that eventually that patient jumps off of a window and like kills himself by jumping out the window into like the floor. And there's so much controversial sequences. Like I understand that this is the kind of effect that Michael Myers has done on the town, and everybody's going batshit crazy with this, but I don't think this scene was necessary. I don't think they needed to do that. Like, you're rallying a mob, you're going yelling evil dies tonight, doing all that stuff while that sheriff and police are there. It felt like you didn't need to do that. You could have just eliminated that whole element, because I get that you want to bring political stuff into this and like real life situations, because you've got like everybody looking at their phones at the bar when Michael escapes. You've got this evil dies tonight and everybody chasing mob mentality, causing somebody to like fall to their death. It just didn't feel like it needed to be there whatsoever. So for me, I was not a fan of that part, and that's for me what brought this movie down a whole lot, along with like the ending too in itself. But like, that's my take on that particular scene there. So then once they realize that it's not the wrong person, like Laurie does eventually find out that Michael has escaped and that she's wanting to like join in, and they're trying to stop her from doing that. You have Lonnie, Cameron and Allison now going and figuring out that Michael's gone back to his childhood home. So then they go and like chase and go find Michael Myers, leading up to the third act and the sequence of the ending of the movie. So these three characters, Lonnie, Allison and Cameron, are now at Michael Myers' house. Lonnie goes in to go look for like Michael, and Cameron and Allison go and follow so that they can see what's going on. Lonnie then, we find out, gets killed, and you see Cameron's reaction once Michael Myers appears, and Cameron just dies in the most brutal manner. Like, I know that he cheated on Allison, but I just felt so bad for how he died. And then you've now got like Michael facing off with Alice, and that's when Karen shows up, stabbing him with a pitchfork in his back, taking off his mask. And it wasn't until I rewatched it, you can actually hear a little bit of Michael speaking in just the most disturbing way, saying to give it back, but it wasn't loud or anything like that. You can slightly hear it with him saying it under his breath. It was just so creepy how he said it. So then Karen starts tricking Michael into going and following her, rather than when he was on the floor and just killing him right there. And that's the thing that frustrated me with this ending sequences, is you've got Michael Myers now following Karen. They end up in this like street where Tommy Doyle, the police officer that was in the original movie where his daughter died, this whole like multiple people now ready to like assault Michael Myers, and they like shoot him, they stab him, they like whack him with a baseball bat, they like hit him with a bag of bricks, just like beating the complete crap out of Michael Myers. But because they needed to make a third movie, you kind of like give him plot armor. You know he's not gonna die, he takes on so much damage, even though like nothing's gonna happen to him, because you know that there's a third movie coming out. So all this brutality, and then Michael Myers down on the floor thinking that like he's dead, but you know that he's not going to be dead. And then Laurie giving this speech about how evil is, how Michael gets stronger the more he kills, and then Michael Myers just getting up and just completely tearing apart every single person there, killing these people that attacked him, ended up killing Tommy Doyle as well. And you get to that sequence where Karen is now in Michael Myers' room, looking out the window for Michael to come from behind and just stab her and kill her, basically. And that's what frustrated me, is that along with the whole hospital sequences, like this ending could have been so great. If you're going to make a third movie, you don't need to have Michael take on that much damage then, because you know he's not gonna. It kind of takes away from the movie, knowing that he's taking on this much damage, getting shot, getting stabbed, getting beaten with baseball bats and bags of bricks, only for him to casually just get up like nothing, basically. So the ending of the movie was Michael Myers killing Karen, looking out the bedroom window there. So like, if you watch it back to back, like watching Halloween 2018 and watching Halloween Kills, they are fun movies and it is an entertaining like ride to go on. But because I've seen Halloween Ends now, and what happens like with everything there, it kind of like just is a step down for me. So I enjoy this movie and I would recommend it, because it, like I said, these two movies back to back are so fun to watch, and the kills in this movie are probably one of my favorite kills in the whole franchise. So for that alone, it is worth watching. So if you have seen the movie, let me know down in the comment section below what you thought about it. Let me know if you enjoyed it. Let me know if you hated the movie. Let me know what you thought about the whole hospital sequences in the comment section down below. And if you haven't already, hit that like button, subscribe button, hit that notification bell so that you don't miss out on any future videos. Again, this is YK Reviews.